All right, we are recording. Hopefully this will be a short. I wanted to be a short video, but I actually do have a lot to say for this chapter, which is 7. Um, First off, I do want to say I do like it. There are some criticisms I can have for it, but mainly it's like, yeah, it's good. I think it could be better in this way or that way. A lot of it I really do like. So this does start with Luke and Vader talking, and it doesn't have. This is one way. It is good. I do like what they do there. But I think it could have been better if it was a little bit more clear Vader's softening to a degree. But also at the same time, I mean, it's like in the movie, as I said in the previous video, it did seem like Vader had a sadness to him. Sorry. Not so much in the book. There's still some softening, but I would say it is more characterized by him. He doesn't, it even does say, he does not wish to kill Luke, but he will. So I think it's more so that, but it's, the wish for not killing Luke is not because he's his son, per se, but but I can turn him. It's like, I can make him serve me, and then as father and son, we rule the galaxy. That's more that kind of regret there. But there are still some quite good moments in it. Okay. So when Vader seemed almost to smile through his mask at his son's use of Jedi voice manipulation. I mean, it's like it is interesting this way. There is a certain pride almost that Vader has for him. He is happy about some of this stuff. But anyway, he's looking at Luke's lightsaber. You've constructed another. This one is mine, Luke said quietly. I no longer use yours. And I just do like that. This acknowledgement there of it is his now. Because the fact that he was using his father's sword, his father's lightsaber, is actually significant. Because it kind of is holding him back in a way, just in a metaphorical sense, because it isn't truly his. He is still relying on a legacy that was provided to him instead of his own strengths, his own tools. Yeah, I will not turn you will be forced to destroy me. If that is your destiny, this was not his wish, but the boy was strong. If it came at last to blows, yes, he would destroy Luke. He could no longer afford to hold back as he once had. So you've got that. You also have this juxtaposition. It is too late for me, son, which in the movie, he's definitely, there definitely seems to be a sadness here. That's not really implied here, though. Then my father is truly dead, answered Luke. So what was to stop him from killing the evil one who stood before him now, he wondered. Nothing, perhaps. And it's just, this is more of that stuff that it's, because in a book you're able to get inside of somebody's head that you can't do in a movie. It is quite interesting. Okay, let's get back to the notes, because a lot of that does cover what I was talking about here. Yeah, I mean, it's overall that the conversation that they have, that back and forth there, it's that. Sorry, trying to take care of some email stuff and it's not working. Don't you hate it when you accidentally click on the wrong thing and then you can't undo the change you didn't mean to do? Anyway, just needed to move an email. I do overall like that whole confrontation, the verbal confrontation in the book. I do like this version. But I still say it's fairly equal with what it is different, but more or less it is equal with what's in the movie. But I do like it here. I do think it is well done. It could be better, I think. But I guess it also depends on what your goal is. Like, they could have been a little bit better reminding you that Vader, he isn't interested in Luke as father and son. He's interested in Luke as essentially a partner in conquering the galaxy. That father and son is just like poetic, but that his desire is, I'm king, you're prince, we rule everything. Yeah, one thing that is interesting is it does actually acknowledge that the naval assault that the the rebellion is trying for here. And this is Lando, like, talking... Well, I'm not sure if it's actually third-person limited, we're following Lando's thoughts, or third-person unlimited, we are following Lando and just now talking about the larger situation. Basically that, yeah, we really shouldn't be doing this all-out naval assault. The rebellion has been successful when using guerrilla tactics. This is not guerrilla tactics. This is the Empire's tactics, and not only that, but we're doing it on the Empire's turf. So why are they doing this? I'm sorry, it's just one of those things where it's not been... They were already assembling the fleet before they knew the Emperor was at the second Death Star. So the second Death Star itself is all that is provoking this, but it's like they didn't assail the first one successfully with large ships. They assailed it with small fighter craft. So why are you committing so many capital ships? I mean, it actually doesn't make sense, this being what you're doing. Especially because it is such high risk. Because it's basically, if this fleet is destroyed, the rebellion is destroyed. It's incredibly foolish because it is all or nothing. And as some of the expanded universe books do go into, at least I'm pretty sure they do. That's what I've heard. I've not read any. That with the Emperor's death, the Empire doesn't fall because you still have governors and admirals and such commanding planets and fleets, and also technically there might still be some senators that are loyal to the Empire and not this new incoming government. So the Civil War doesn't end here. It's a major blow to the Empire, but it's not the end here. So the idea of an all or nothing attack like this, it really doesn't make sense. And they do kind of call it out in here by saying that, yeah, this is kind of all tipped in favor of the Empire. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, what would be a better strategy? Because it is fair to try to do. Well, I think actually, this is legitimately a criticism I have for so many different stories. And what's funny is The Lord of the Rings actually is an example of how it should be done. And I'm trying to remember, I want to say there was another, I just can't quite think of it. But part of the reason why it's important to mention The Lord of the Rings is Tolkien had war experience. In The Lord of the Rings, I'm just trying to, somewhat to a degree in Two Towers, but definitely in The Return of the King, both sides have reserves. Like, they do have a portion of their forces held back that then arrive later. Although in the case of the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is the main one for Return of the King, the reserve is technically Rohan, because Gondor is under siege. So it's Rohan is coming to assist, and that is essentially Gondor's reserves. But there's also the mountain men that are coming with Aragorn and his forces. And I think, I'm trying to remember, it's been a few months since I read it. I think that there were also smaller forces that were to the south of the Pelennor Fields, south of the Anduin, that actually joined with Aragorn and such to go up, especially because now he was defeating the Umbar pirates that were in the area, which the Umbar pirates were also for Sauron's forces. You had the initial orcs, then you had the Haradrim, who came out and responded to the Rohirrim, like you do see in the movie, and then the Umbar pirates, which is how Aragorn and his people arrive. So you have multiple waves there. You have the first wave, and then you've got two sets of reserves. Technically, that's also what the humans have. In the Two Towers, I'm trying to remember. You do to a degree, but it's more so it's designed to accept a siege. So it's not like you necessarily have reserves there, although there is the whole Gandalf's arrival, and does bring in reinforcements, as I recall, and also you have the trees. But it is more so it's designed, the whole of Helm's Deep, because the movie does no justice to the actual construction of that. It is designed to be able to withstand this siege and inflict heavy losses for somebody even trying it. So it's designed, even though you don't have reserves, it is designed to handle this. It still ultimately does have weaknesses that Saruman exploits. But anyway. Coming back to the whole weakness thing that Tolkien doesn't show there, is not an example of, is there's no reserves. Why are you committing the entire force to attack the Death Star? Especially because you don't know. When you think about it, it's also ridiculous, the idea that they would arrive there immediately. It arrived there so close that they don't know if the shield is up or down, such that they may run into. And they do. Some do run into. It isn't in the movie, but it is in the book. A few X-Wings clip their wings on it and actually then like spin out of control into the shield. I mean, if anything, you would have patrol, like a few small craft appear first, check that, or even already be there, and in some way just something that the Empire wouldn't notice, and radio in, yes, it's down, start your attack. It's like you would do that, but it still is you wouldn't commit your entire force there unless you're stupid. Yeah, it will be interesting because I do have some books some stories for myself that I do want to do war stuff in, and it is definitely I want to make sure I do have reserves in there. And also reminds me of one story. I cannot remember all of it though. Like I may not have names correct for it, but from when I took military history back in high school, so quite a while ago. Where one general was actually the one doing, leading the battle, but he had another general there as basically, hey, I want you to look at what I'm doing here and tell me what you think. And this other general, who was far more experienced, far more intelligent, far more capable, was like, where are your reserves? We don't have any. Then you have lost. I was like, that was his response. That is how critical reserves are, and yet in a lot of fiction, they're missing. And I wonder, I don't think that, at least in books, I don't think it's an issue of, oh, well, we don't have time to explain. It's like, you can write a longer chapter. That's fine. Especially if it's a good battle, people will read it. That's not an issue. I think it might be more so, a lot of authors don't necessarily have military experience. They don't necessarily understand that you don't just go in guns blazing. You do try to have strategy, and you do keep reserves, because sometimes battles last minutes, sometimes they last hours. And you need to cycle people in and out. You need to be able to bring in new supplies, new weapons, more ammo, all that. That's what reserves allow you to do to some degree. Also being able to, like somebody's wounded. Okay, we send people in that can extract the wounded and also take their place. It's like, that's all part of it. Lots of fiction neglects it, and it seems that's also the case here, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, one other thing that I want to say at one point I had heard that in Return of the Jedi, so the rebels on Endor have entered the bunker. And you can see, because, it's like Han and Leia, coming down the steps and such. You can see outside of the bunker in the background, and you see somebody putting on the Stormtrooper uniform. And I know that some people, I know I've heard some people claim that was an accident, that was a stuntman changing his costume. It's like, no. I mean, it makes no sense. Why? Because, it's not that hard to spot. And it's also, he shouldn't have been doing it there anyway. In the book, it straight up says that, no, that the one stormtrooper that they knocked out, they took the armor off of him. One dude was putting it on to stand guard, pretend. So that it looks appropriate when people glance at it. And even in the movie, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't they do that? It is just one of those things that people see something and they just assume, oh, it must be a mistake, and I realize that, well, no, that actually makes a lot of sense to do. I could also see some people looking at a battlefield, going back to the previous point. Why do you have this large group of people not in that fight? You could use them right now. It's like, well, no, actually, we don't want to use them right now. We want to use them as we need them. Like, we commit everything, then if it fails, we fail. As opposed to being able to handle things differently. And it's also like, don't remember which battle it was, but one of Alexander the Great's battles. It was Alexander the Great deserves that title. He had cavalry, so did his opponent. What he did, because he understood cavalry changes battles. Okay, it's like, you have cavalry against just normal ground forces, normal foot soldiers, you win. Cavalry wins. He understood that. So what he did is he actually arranged his ground forces in just rows like this, curved rows, so that they would basically they would take the larger force facing them, and each time they would just collapse back down to another level, getting denser and denser and denser. He was basically playing on a gambit that I don't think I phrased that well, but the gambit was that his ground forces would survive long enough. His cavalry was out there taking on the opponent's cavalry. He was betting his cavalry was better, and it was. Once it defeated the other cavalry, then it came in and rescued the ground forces. Why did I start talking about that? I mean, it's just kind of that whole use of reserves. There's like, oh, but your ground soldiers, your foot soldiers, they're in danger. Why aren't you helping them? It's like, the best thing we can do to help them is get rid of the other cavalry. You use it that way. Yeah, and things like that. I mean, yeah. I wish I remembered my military history a bit better, but it is definitely, some of it can be very fascinating and so important in stories. I mean, can you think of any story that describes a battle like that? I mean, I can't. Where, I mean, even, I guess sort of going back to the Two Towers, the idea of you falling back further and further into the keep, but it's also with that, that's they're actually losing, not well, we're trying to buy time for something else. Okay. Getting back to it. Oh yeah, this is interesting. So they have Vader and Luke arrive on the Death Star. Vader's escorting him to meet the Emperor. All that. And the conversation between Luke and the Emperor, I definitely do like it better in the book. It's a little bit more animated in a way than, because in the movie, the Emperor's like just constantly sitting there. No, he's actually up and moving around some. Which I'll get to that. But when Luke and Vader are first approaching, and Luke is like feeling the Emperor, feeling his presence before he's gotten there, the thought goes through his mind that he really hopes, he genuinely hopes, the rebels succeed, blow up the Death Star right now. So it kills all three of them. The two evil ones and himself, because he's feeling the temptation already. He knows he can be tempted to evil. And so he's perfectly comfortable with dying with them, because that means it's all gone. It's all done. We no longer have this great, powerful force threat on the galaxy. He's good with that. So this is, again, the whole thing where you get to be in their heads, and that really, really can improve the story. The Emperor releases Luke's binds, which I do find interesting. There's no comment from Luke about, wait, the Emperor can use the Force? Nothing like that. It is telling Luke that that's the case, but nothing like that. Because it is kind of funny, you don't necessarily see any references beyond Vader talking with the Emperor that anyone's aware the Emperor can use the Force. And also, you do have in A New Hope. Now, true, they could just say, we're changing that. Tarkin saying, wait, no, wasn't Tarkin, it was somebody else, saying to Vader, you're the last of that old religion. Like, there's no one else that uses the Force. Obviously, he wouldn't be aware of Luke or Kenobi or anything like that, but him saying that implies he doesn't believe the Emperor uses the Force. But we know he does, so it's... Anyhow, when the Emperor releases Luke's binds, so Luke, his hands are now free. He's now actually thinking, should I attack him? He's unarmed. I can do it. But he's churning that over in his mind, and he's tempted to do it, but he also does have the thought, wouldn't that aggression serve the dark side? So it is interesting in that it very much does kind of juxtapose the Kenobi-Vader fight in A New Hope, where Kenobi made the point to Vader, basically, I can only win, you can only lose. Because if I find my mark, if my lightsaber finds its mark, you die and cease to exist. If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, because in the whole Force Ghost thing, he becomes one with the Force. All that. Right? So Luke is also kind of seeing this, and the Emperor taunts him. And that is not in the movie. I wish it were. It's pretty good. But you have that sorry, I just need to go back that extra point, that extra step, to get back on track. That you have the juxtaposition there where Luke is the Emperor is trying to recreate that situation where if Luke does nothing, then he can be swayed by the Emperor's words. If Luke does attack, then Luke is giving into the dark side, so he will end up being evil just as the Emperor wants. So they are trying to set that up. And it's very appropriate to do. I don't think the Emperor is doing it nearly as well as Kenobi, but still, the Emperor is... Writing villains can be a lot of fun. The Emperor doesn't feel as fun as some villains, but he is still kind of fun, like how he's mocking Luke, because how he's taunting Luke. He's mocking other people. Because he asks, who was it that trained you in the ways of the Force? Oh, that's right, Kenobi did. And we know how good he is at training people, and he motions towards Vader. So he's mocking Kenobi, because Kenobi blames himself for Anakin becoming Vader. But it's also Vader's very powerful. So it's like, the Emperor is actually praising him, but it still is, he's mocking what Kenobi feels is a great failure of his, which is Anakin falling and becoming Vader. But then it's like, yes, Kenobi, but... he died, so who picked up your training afterwards? And Luke is struggling not to reveal anything. He is trying his best not to, but he is being provoked. He's trying to stay calm, but he is being provoked. The Emperor is seeing that, and then the Emperor's like, there was once this old master called Yoda. An old master in the Force and training in it. Would that be him? And again, just the mention of the name, Luke kind of cracks a little bit, so Emperor's like, yes, it was. Lives he still? And it's like, damn, man. This is so good. Because lives he still? That's exactly how Yoda would put it. So the Emperor is mocking the way Yoda speaks to further provoke Luke. It's like, this is good. I like this. He could be having more fun with it, I feel. You can't do better than lives he still. You can't. You cannot do better than that. But I mean, just the broader scene, he could be having some more fun here, but he doesn't really seem to be. But yeah, lives he still, because it's so simple, so succinct, you cannot top that for a mock of Yoda. You cannot top that for the Emperor. But man, it is on point. It is on. Also, Luke doesn't react. They could describe Luke struggling to not react, trying to stay calm there better than they are. But still, it's like, I read that and it's like, approved. Let me actually see if I can find it. It's not too far from the end. And there is actually something at the end I would kind of like to read for you, because it is interesting. Hang on. No, it should be earlier than that. Yeah, the Emperor watched Luke's face with cunning. I'm sure Yoda taught you to use the Force with great skill. The taunt had its desired effect. Luke's face flushed, his muscles flexed. There was a part of me, by the way, when I was reading this, that was almost like, you know what? Let Luke lean into this. He doesn't need to be completely on the defensive here. Essentially, Luke could try to throw off the Emperor by just approaching the Emperor as an equal here. Where it's like, who is it that trained you? Well, it was Obi-Wan Kenobi. That great Jedi Master. Weren't you aware of that? Didn't Vader tell you? I was like, just say yes. Why can't he answer that question? There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. Oh, and then who trained you later? Have you ever heard of the Jedi Master Yoda? There's no reason he can't just be the equal here and answer the question. You can basically sit down and actually have this conversation, because if he's acting as an equal, then that means they're sparring back and forth as equals. Whereas currently, the way it is written, the Emperor is dominating Luke. And Luke is constantly trying to stay in control. But if he's talking, he might be able to control that better. That is my feeling. So that's why I wish that they had done that. But anyway. So yeah, after Luke's face flushed, his muscles flexed, he saw the Emperor actually lick his lips at the sight of Luke's reaction. Lick his lips and laugh from the bottom of his throat, the bottom of his soul, which by the way is a comma there, not a semicolon, which I find a little interesting. Luke paused, for he saw something else as well. Something he hadn't seen before in the Emperor. Fear. So this is interesting, and it is, they do go on, Luke saw fear in the Emperor, fear of Luke, fear of Luke's power. Fear that this power could be turned on him, on the Emperor, in the same way Vader had turned it on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke saw this fear in the Emperor, and he knew now the odds had shifted slightly. He had glimpsed the Emperor's nakedest self. This was a reference, the Emperor used that term as well, when basically saying that, yeah, I can read your mind. I know exactly. I can read you perfectly. It's, that, your nakedest soul. Hang on, no. Very good, young Skywalker. You almost hid this from me, but you could not, and you cannot. Your deepest flickerings are to me apparent. Your nakedest soul. That is my first lesson to you. That would be another reason for Luke to just decide to be and I get, that's not Luke's character, I get it. I'm just acknowledging it would be tempting to have the character just act as an equal there, because the Emperor is trying to be dominant and is trying to say, this is my first lesson to you. But if Luke is acting an equal, then he's not really receiving a lesson, or at least he's able to deliver one back to the Emperor, which could throw the Emperor off some. But it's also possible the Emperor is so used to being dominant that challenge, he would just be like, well, you're faking it, I'm still dominant. So, yeah. Okay. I know I'm near it. Okay. Vader watched Luke. This is right at the end of the chapter, by the way. His boy was powerful, stronger than he'd imagined. Exactly where that comes from, I'm not sure. Just to be clear, I'm not sure how we're gauging that Luke is powerful here, unless it is just Luke powerful of mind, that he isn't just succumbing to the Emperor immediately. But anyway, stronger than he'd imagined, and still pliable, not lost yet, either to the sickening weakly side of the Force that had to beg for everything it received, which is one thing that's been consistent in some of the writing, but anyway, or to the Emperor who feared Luke with reason. There was yet time to take Luke for his own, to retake him, to join with him in dark majesty, to rule the galaxy together. It would only take patience and a little wizardry to show Luke the exquisite satisfaction of the dark way and to pry him from the Emperor's terrified clutch. Vader knew Luke had seen it too, the Emperor's fear. He was a clever boy, young Luke. Vader smiled grimly to himself. He was his father's son. I like this. I really, like I was saying, I like the chapter. There are some ways it could be better here and there. Not counting what I was saying I was tempted to do, but I mean, just there are some ways it could be better here and there. But this stuff, I wish that this was set up at the beginning of the chapter better. So that, like, the whole he doesn't wish to destroy Luke, give the explanation there instead of here. But this is very well written right here. Because it also not only gives the insight, and this is also one thing, because I mentioned earlier how it does seem like we go between third person limited and third person unlimited. That I'm going to have to remember to watch out for. I don't think I've had that problem yet in my stories. I'm going to have to be sure I watch out for that to never do that. Because it is, there are times, like even in this portion here, where it seems like we're third person unlimited, we just know everything that's going on. But then this, with the whole, not lost yet, either to the sickening, weakly side of the Force that had to beg for everything it received, or to the Emperor who feared Luke's reason. This is third person limited. This is in Vader's head. That's not unlimited. Okay? Because if it were unlimited, yes, you could still know what's in there, but that context would be delivered there. So it's like this bouncing back and forth, because unlimited wouldn't describe the light side of the Force as being weak. Because the third person unlimited should be aware of, no. It's all technically the same Force. But it's like, rewinding a little bit, coming back to the actual main point that I want to get to here, this is Vader's point of view of the Force. That the dark side is you take the Force and you use it, you wield it, you make it yours. He doesn't understand fully. He has a shallow understanding that the Jedi, instead, the Force flows through them, and so they basically alter the flow. They manage the flow to achieve what they wish. But technically, they are not controlling the Force, they're influencing it, and it isn't necessarily as powerful. I'm just trying to... I know I tried to use an analogy before of it being like if the Force is like a river that you're standing in, a Jedi tries to just change the current slightly to achieve his outcome, whereas a Sith would try to completely stop it and only let it flow where they want it to. One is potentially, if they can actually direct the whole of the river, the Sith would be far more powerful there, but it's also much more difficult, and it is also, you dam up a river, it overflows. Even it will overflow if you don't let it out in some way. So it is more powerful than you there. The Jedi basically always accept, no, we are good there. We work with the Force, not try to control it. And it's just the way Vader's understanding is shallow here is he doesn't recognize that by letting the Force flow through you, you are not limiting the Force at all by yourself. Although I think a lot of the descriptions when Luke is trying to use the Force shows that he doesn't understand that. And I know I made that point in Empire Strikes Back with the whole raising of the X-Wing. That I think that the fact that Luke visualizes the whole movement of the X-Wing up and over and down, that's why he fails. Because he can't comprehend the X-Wing, this massive piece of machinery, being raised up and moving like he can't envision that. He wants to, but he can't actually do that. He can't understand that happening, so that's why he fails. Yoda, we don't get inside his head, but it might have been more so a, yo, Force, I want that thing there. Can you help me out? And the Force is like, sure, because we work with you. And it's like the Force will handle it getting from point A to point B. You don't need to be concerned with that. You just need to be setting up. Yes, the Force. Well, yes, you want it from point A to point B, however it gets there. So that can actually make you far more powerful because the Force is your ally versus the Force is your tool. It is kind of that. So the Sith seems more so it's the Force is your tool. So your power over the Force dictates the power you have with the Force. A Jedi, however, would, by my interpretation, your power with the Force is really only limited by the power of the Force, which would be far greater. But is that you have to be subservient to the Force to some degree. You have to be humble to it at least, because it is greater than you, and the Sith want to reject that. And here, it kind of captures that. Yeah, and also I just want to add, the Emperor interrupted Vader's contemplation with a cackled remark to Luke. And it's just, he's mocking the whole situation with how the naval battle is going. I should also explain how I said that the Emperor is moving around more. The Emperor actually gets up and is holding the lightsaber in his hand. Luke's lightsaber in his hand. Because Luke wants to grab it. And it's actually starting to lift his hand up at times, and going like that or something to summon it and then strike the Emperor. Which I'm sure the Emperor is completely aware of. And at one point, it does even say the Emperor and Vader are watching Luke while he's raising his hand to do this. And the Emperor is like, here it is. Do you want it here? It's right here. And then it's while the battle's going on outside, he even sets it down in a chair next to Luke's hand. He makes it easy. None of that, just it resting there and it's yes, you want this, don't you? It's no. It is completely it's right there. Go right ahead. Because it's, as I was saying earlier, the juxtaposition with A New Hope. To the Emperor, it's you kill me, guess what? That makes you dark side. That makes you evil. I win. You don't kill me, I sway you with my words. So I win. Or option 3, your dad right there kills you. I win. So it's that's what the Emperor's trying to set up here. Which is also going back to the whole, if Luke were an equal to the Emperor, were acting as that, he could reject that. And basically, pull a little James T. Kirk here, reject a no-win scenario. And just be no, I'm going to find another option. Alright, the last thing that I have here, I want to actually try to read through. How did I actually went straight to it? Okay, so this is for the actual naval fight. So we got Wedge. Lock X foils in attack positions. Wait, no. I think it's sometimes referred to as S foils. Anyway, the wings split like dragonfly gossamers, poised for increased maneuvering and power. All wings report in, said Lando. Red leader standing by, Wedge replied. Green leader standing by, blue leader standing by, gray leader. Last transmission was interrupted, blah, blah, blah. Here they come, Wedge commented. Accelerate to attack speed. Lando ordered draw fire away from our cruisers as long as possible. Copy, gold leader. Wedge responded. We're moving to point 3 across the axis. 2 of them coming in, 20 degrees, someone advised. I see them, noted Wedge. Cut left, I'll take the leader. Watch yourself, Wedge. 3 more from above. Yeah, I'm on it, Red leader. There's too many of them. You're taking a lot of fire. Back off. Red 4, watch out. I'm hit. The X-Wing spun, sparking across the starfield, out of power into the void. You've picked one up. Watch it, Red 6 yelled at Wedge. My scope's negative. Where is he? Red 6. A squadron of fighters has broken through. They're heading for the medical frigate. After them. Go ahead, Lando agreed. I'm going in. There are 4 marks at .35. Cover me. Right behind you, Gold Leader. Red 2, Red 3. Pull in. Hang on back there. Close up formation. Blue group. Close up formations, Blue group. Sorry. Good shooting, Red 2. Not bad, said Lando. I'll take on the other 3. This is gibberish, but it's perfect. This is exactly something that is the correct thing to do here. It's because it's nonsense. It is absolute gibberish. It has no meaning. You have zero understanding of the battle going on here. But you understand that the battle is happening and that it is frantic, back and forth. It's building tension while saying nothing. I mean, legitimately, that is, when I was seeing it, it's like, this is good. This is good. This is what you need to be doing. Because you want to build the tension of this battle. The frenzied communication back and forth, but it's unimportant. The details do not matter at all, and it's in a book. You're not seeing it all. So it basically being as though you're just listening to the radio from miles away. Well, I guess light years away. So you have no ability to see what's happening. You don't know who these people are. You don't know what the situation is. Okay, that's actually like a very good way to tell it here, because that's exactly what the experience is. But if you're hearing that, you're still gonna be like, oh no, what's going on? Oh no, they're behind you. It's very well done, very well done. I definitely did like seeing that there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have more to say on that. Just that is, gibberish does have its uses, and that is exactly a use there for it. And maybe gibberish isn't the right word, but it is. I hope you do understand my point here that the details of this battle right there are meaningless. The point is, it's a battle. You just need the fighting back and forth. That's what it accomplishes there. And I did actually run into a little bit of something like that in The Children of Many Gifts. In the fight in the 50s. It's weird how that book actually, about every 10 chapters, is its own act. In the 50s, the main battle in that, for some of it, I am basically just doing gibberish, because it's irrelevant. The point is, these two are fighting at such a high level, they're so powerful, that I don't need to describe how they're hitting each other. That's irrelevant. They're hitting each other. And it kind of ends at that. And at one point I'm pretty sure I do write in there, that it's basically just a contest of wills between these two. It's just carried out by their fists and feet, punches and kicks. But I also start describing the effects from a distance. So the effect of basically if you were listening to the radio, but it's like blasts are going off near you kind of thing. When what I'm describing is, even though they're miles away, they're feeling the heat off of the blows. Because technically every time you hit something, there would be some friction heat released. And it's like, yeah, they're actually feeling that heat from miles away. That's how I would do it. So what's happening there is, right there is gibberish, but I can still provide information on the intensity of it at distance. So it's, yeah, but it isn't gibberish like that, like what was in here. This is very good gibberish for a larger battle that involves many people. In the 50s there, it mostly is just the two main combatants. At one point, 3 more do enter, but it's more of they're insignificant flies, just observing what's going on. 2 of them tried to get involved, regretted that, and then the third got involved to try to stop them, and then gets them out of there, and that's it. Because it really is just between the two. The main 2 combatants there is nothing that comes close to them. Yeah. All right. So that was. I'll say it again. I'm quite happy with Chapter 7. I legitimately am. What negative criticisms I can have at it, Well, let me see. It's just I wish it had built up better Vader's desire concerning Luke. Better at the beginning of the chapter, not just at the end. The way it was described at the end. But other things in it I definitely did like. So I am. Aside from what I just mentioned, it would just be certain word choices that I would disagree with. That I think could be better. But by and large, it's a very good chapter, and I mean, it's just the Emperor mocking Yoda like that was perfect. It lives he still. Oh man, that's perfect. Especially when you also consider that means that the Emperor does know who Yoda is. Now, obviously, we know that from the prequel trilogy, but remember that wasn't written yet. That wasn't necessarily even storyboarded yet. As far as we don't know how well they know each other, it could have been initially that Yoda was just somebody that existed that the Emperor had knowledge of, but had never met, had never encountered, but still learned enough about him. Because it's also funny when you think about that. It's like, oh yes, I think there was this Master Yoda. It's like, there's got to be a lot of Jedi Masters out there, and he just happens to be. So the Emperor very likely does actually know already, and he is just trying to get under Luke's skin. But it then does go into the whole, well, yeah, he does very well with the whole lives he still. I mean, it's like perfect. Definitely looking forward to chapter 8 and then the final chapter, which is 9. Yeah, it should be quite a lot of fun, and then I'll watch the movie. Oh yeah, I will also try to do a overall review of the book, the whole trilogy here. Yeah, but see you next time. I am happy. I'm happy with it. See you next time.